Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Chartreuse Leprechaun. My name is Mark, your host, and it's time for our monthly-ish update video. Now, there really isn't a lot going on this month, but, it's a monthly update video, and there are some things I would like to have your thoughts on. So, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description below, so you can watch straight through, you can skip around. Totally up to you. Please check it all out and leave me your thoughts. So let's get started with tech education, the part of the video where I talk about what we've learned on the technical side during the last month. There's really only one thing to talk about, and that is video. We've been making do with our monthly videos using a Logitech C930E webcam, which replaced a Logitech C525 webcam. That should tell you a lot. And we pretty much reached the limits of what we can do with it. As I understand it, the limitations are basically due to aperture, lens, and focus control. The camera skews the color range. It has a wide-angle view, so I'm forced to zoom in. It has a lot of motion blur. It tends to darken things. I've managed to get most of the motion blur out of it, but it's still there. So, as an experiment this month, we're going to be working with that and my cell phone to do some comparisons. And we're going to see which one works better, or how I can adjust better for both of them. We'll see. I won't actually know until post-production when I paste this whole thing together, so we'll all be surprised at the outcome. Okay, I lied. Sort of. There's two things to talk about this month, even though they're the same thing. I changed our desktop arrangement. We've been using, I've got three monitors. I've got a 1080p television, a 1080p computer monitor, and a 4K computer monitor that we have set to 1440p. So we've been using up until actually this month our 1080p monitors for recording and gameplay. Well, I switched it around and I took that 4K monitor that we've set at 1440p, and that's now our main display for gaming and, pretty much everything. Now, I only started a couple of weeks ago, and we're still working through some issues, like there was some extra stutter and a little bit of blur that cropped up when we restarted Planet Crafter, and the video files are much bigger. I have no idea if y'all are seeing any difference. Let me know in the comments if you see any improvement or change, but I am definitely seeing a difference, and I really wish I had done it sooner. Okay, one last several things. There was one other thing this month, and that is temperatures. Now, our weather here in Texas has dipped pretty solidly into the mid-60s, actually mid-50s to mid-60s Fahrenheit during the day, and, oh my God, mid-40s at night. For those of you who are wondering, that's around 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, just FYI. So the ambient temperatures in the house are lower. Well, slightly lower anyway, because we're running the heat instead of the AC, so heat's set lower than AC, so that ambient temperature stays lower. And that's great, but it hasn't helped in our studio space at all. See, the CPU runs at like 40 to 72 C, and the air conditioning was keeping up with that just fine. Then we got our new graphics card, and our new GPU runs at 50 to 65 C, so that doubled the heat output in this small space with the door closed. That limits the air conditioner airflow. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, water cooling won't actually help this situation. And that's because while the water cooling systems are really good at pulling heat from components, it still pumps the heat in here. You know, the small room with the limited airflow because of the closed door, because, the Leprechaun. We'll get there eventually. And that brings us to programming news. The first thing is a big announcement. Wednesdays has been kind of my goof-off day, the day where I play games for fun. Thursdays are my real day off. Everyone needs a day off. Be sure to give yourself a day off. I'm ordering you to take it. The Leprechaun does not want you to take a day off. You take a day off. Okay? Okay? Okay. I decided to try sharing the games I play for fun with y'all on Discord. We actually started last week. Currently, we're playing No Man's Sky. And to be honest, the hard part is not playing a head off cam. Please, can I please, can I please, oh pretty please, can I please? Now, I am recording the stream, and the plan is to post it on YouTube the following week. And of course, that means the usual problems, not to mention the technical issues of learning how to use Discord. But we'll get there. You are welcome to come join me. There's a link in the channel description below. The usual live stream and Discord rules apply. You know, be respectful, talk nice, no spamming. Y'all know how that works. I hope I get to meet some of you there. Meanwhile, in other news, YouTube is changing its music policy. And the changes, as they stand right now, well, they basically amount to a bad deal for content creators. The short version is you can now buy a license to use copyrighted music on YouTube. But there are some caveats. The license has an expiration. In other words, you buy a license, you use a track in a video today, the license expires at some point in the future, and your video is no longer copyright strike protected. Right. Number two, the rights holder can change their participation in the program at any time, and everything reverts back to, let's say they decide to withdraw from the program. Everything reverts back to what it was. You get copyright strikes now, even though you had the license. Yeah. Number three, the license is not valid for repeated use of a track. You have to buy a license for each time you use a song. Right. And number four, you pay a variable amount of money, up to all or even more of your potential earnings just to use that one track. One. Right. Speaking as a musician, I understand the licensing thing. I really do. But speaking as a content creator with those kind of things involved, there is no reason whatsoever to pay into this program. There are no actual benefits and there are extra risks. Which leads to the question of how does this affect us? The answer is it doesn't right now because the channel's not monetized. Our intro and outro tracks, we're using those under Creative Commons licensing, which lets me use it for free as personal use. If and or when monetization kicks in, yeah, well, we'll see. I'm hopeful I can work that out with the actual creators if and or when monetization kicks in. Fortunately, there's only 2 creators that I'm dealing with. The bad news is any other track I use falls into this black hole that YouTube has created. So for all you folks that want me to use music, long story short, no, I'm stopping. Yeah, I know there are places you can get copyright-free music, but I'm kind of picky about what I use, and it's not necessarily about genre. I mean, we've used jazz, R&B, rock, reggae, country, a few others. It's more about a particular type of sound and feel, and I'm just not finding what I want or what I like in those services. Most of it just sounds so synthetic. You know what I mean? Anyway, for now, and maybe permanently, music is going away. I hate it, but I don't really have a choice. And now for health news. Yeah, just like I said when I started this whole video, there's not a lot going on. I haven't heard from Social Security yet. I'm not surprised that I haven't heard from her. Frankly, I'm not expecting to hear from her for a couple more months. It's the government, and the wheels of government go slowly most of the time. In other news, I met with the neurologist to discuss the issues I'm having when traveling. We also discussed the continuing and expanding nerve issues in the hand, arm, and shoulder, and now leg. And yes, it is expanding, progressing, spreading, whatever you want to call it. That's actually pretty common with nerve conditions. So the current plan is to get a new MRI of the brainstem and the neck. so far, MRIs aren't showing anything new. I get one every couple of years or so, and nothing. But he wants to specifically focus on areas. I don't even know if you can get that specifically focused with an MRI. I guess we'll find out. All I know is I want some answers. But I guess that's why they call it practicing medicine.
Now, as for our garden experiment, it was actually going really well. You can see we had peas coming up, and we had okra coming up. We had potatoes. Well, you can't really see the potatoes so well. Say hi, girls. That's Misty in Alaska, by the way. Hi, girlies. And we had, oh goodness, we had cantaloupe. No, not cantaloupe. Squash and zucchini and cucumbers and beans, and then we got freezing rain. Yeah, and that was the end of it. Now, we kind of thought we might have planted, a week or two-ish late, and yeah, it looks like we did. We had flowers coming out, so we were about to get like produce, but yeah, the experiment for the season is over. Kind of ended, but we did learn a lot. We had some problems with bugs. You can see that some of the leaves were browned. They were eaten up by bugs and maybe a little bit of blight, so got a bit of a learning curve there. But, we did learn a lot, and we're going to be able to come back in the spring much more prepared. So, yeah, it was a good experiment.
But despite the gardening difficulties, and more importantly, the health challenges from strokes and nerve issues and migraines, I have hope.
I know, I say that every video, but I actually mean it.
I have a living hope. It's a hope that never fades, and that hope is Jesus.
No, I do not mean rules and religion and blah, blah, blah. I mean the living, resurrected Jesus. I know him, and you can know him too. And I know that because the Bible tells me so. Well, how do you know that, you ask? Well,
think of the Bible like a video game. See, video games have, they've got the obvious story, the actions, and all of that. And they also have things called Easter eggs. Usually they have several. Sometimes they have a lot.
And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, video game Easter eggs are things developers hide inside a video game that refer to other things. Might be people, other games and developers, groups, things, history. Could be something personal, could be something social, could be anything.
And they come in the form of text, images, special scenes, all kinds of stuff. But remember, they're hidden. You have to look for them. And you can play a game repeatedly and never realize the reference. And then one day, boom, it becomes clear as day for you.
Kind of like the cameo appearances of Stan Lee in the Spider-Man movies. Or Peter Jackson in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
You can also think of it like a theme in a movie. When a character or event comes on screen, the music plays the same score for that. Well, it may change tone or it may change style, say a major chord pattern to a minor chord pattern, from rock style to jazz style, but it's the same theme. And it's used to let you know what's coming.
Well, the Bible is full of those kind of references. Little nuanced passages that point to something else. And until you recognize the reference, it doesn't mean anything to you. It's one of the biggest reasons people misinterpret the Bible. Usually, they use our modern ways and ideas and concepts to interpret something that meant something completely different back then.
It's also one of the reasons people get confused by prophecy and how it relates to Jesus. Only not so clearly. And since it doesn't make sense, they eventually toss the Bible and everything goes with it. Well, instead, you should keep reading it. Just like you kept playing that game or watching that movie. One day it'll make sense. You'll see it and you'll be in awe of how simple and wonderful it really is.
There are Easter eggs all over the Bible. Little thematic references to Christ, his life, his death, his suffering, his resurrection, and the hope you can have by faith in him. And they start on page 1 and they go to page last.
God had this in mind from the beginning. sin, the choice to walk away from God, to reject God, to choose what we say is right, that's what separates man from God. The penalty of sin is being separated from God. But God doesn't want you to be separated from him. And he had in mind to create a way to be reconciled back to him. That's the gospel. That's the good news of Christ and his death and his burial and his resurrection.
That's the good news of his promised return. It's revealed in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. So give yourself to him. Not an idea of him, not a concept of him. Give yourself to the living God. Give yourself to the one who died for you, the one who opened the way to heaven for all who come to him by faith through his death, burial, and resurrection. You cannot earn your way to heaven. And thinking you can is pride, the thing that separates people from God in the first place.
So humble yourself, surrender your pride, acknowledge your sin that separates you from God, ask his forgiveness, and surrender yourself to his rule and authority. That's the only way to God and the only way into heaven.
Well, thank you for spending your time with us here today at the Chartreuse Leprechaun and participating in our little experiment with cameras. Leave us any suggestions you may have on how we can get better, because we genuinely do want to get better and we'd like your feedback to help us do it. Hit that like button, subscribe, set yourself up for notifications, all that wonderful stuff so you don't miss anything around here. And, also to keep the YouTube algorithm happy with us, please keep the YouTube algorithm happy with us.
And finally, my usual warning to you all. The leprechaun is out there to mess things up. It's what he does to you, to me, to everyone, everywhere, all the time. So keep your eyes open.
And always remember, if you see it and you can't quite explain it, you can be sure the leprechaun did it. Now you have yourselves a great day, a great week, and we will see you here next time on the Chartreuse Leprechaun. Bye-bye.